On this episode of the Goal Line Fade, Brian and I discuss the Mavs. Luka's game winner, man, disgusting. We talk about the Rangers, and they're still actually watchable 2 weeks into the season. And we talk about who the Cowboys could target if they trade back or they move into the first end of the second round. This and more on the Goal Line Fade. Welcome to the Goal Line Fade, a Dallas sports podcast. I am Zach, your host, with my RB1, Brian. And we got a lot to talk about. I'm quite fired up this Friday, actually. MLB The Show came out today, so I'm just ecstatic. Actually, not even going to lie, before this podcast, I just woke up from like an hour and a half nap. I stayed up till almost 3 o'clock in the morning playing it last night. I am a child. I'm a giant man child. I am a 6'3" man child who's 39 years old. I live yeah, it's pretty fun. I'm having some fun playing with the Rangers. It's very awesome on the PS5. As you know, I'm one of the select few that have this cool bad boy. Yep. It's amazing. For those of you who are not watching this on YouTube, I'm holding my PlayStation controller right now. Brian, the things this controller does with the show video game is one of the coolest things I've ever experienced. Like, you feel when you catch the ball, like it pings like here, like wherever you would catch the ball. When you throw it, you feel it, the hits. It starts to pulse whenever it's like a clutch hit thing. Or like if you're trying to pitch and two people are on base, the controller starts like jacking around like crazy. It's very cool. It's a very cool aspect. I had way too much fun last night playing. I got lost in March to October, which is like a situational season mood, but I won't bore everybody with that too much. Brian, how are you doing, man?
Good, man. Sitting here at the house. What did I do this week? Cleaned the garage, some spring cleaning. This. I haven't really talked about it on here, but I'm a bit of I keep reptiles, and so I'm working on a terrarium right now that's gonna be really, really cool. So I've spent all week doing that. That's about cool. It though, man.
Are you trying to teach them kung fu? Is that something we can count on, Ninja Turtle style?
Absolutely. Yeah, no, it's gonna happen right now. They've got the hands. It's the feet part that they're, when they start trying to throw kicks, it gets all whacked.
Yes.
Yeah.
So besides the video games and raising reptiles, Brian and I like sports a lot. So first off, thank you for anybody listening right now. If you're on YouTube, thanks for checking it out there. You can also check us out anywhere you can find podcasts for the Goal Line Fade, a Dallas sports podcast. Now, as far as what we're going to talk about today, like I covered in the beginning, a little bit of Mavs, a little bit of Rangers, and a lot of Cowboys on this episode. We are 2 weeks from last night, will be Brian and I talking about who the Dallas Cowboys have selected with the first pick in the draft, maybe moving back in the draft, maybe moving back into the draft. Who knows what is going to happen on night one? There's so many different things that can happen.
All kinds of wonkiness, maybe.
Yeah. So the first thing I want to kind of touch on is the Mavs. Obviously, weird week, once again, kind of a weird week for them and the Rangers. Very similar, kind of just up and down a little bit, kind of a split week. Man, Luka is just a freak and huge game winner versus a team that we're fighting playoff positioning with. We played Memphis on Wednesday night, and man, oh freaking man, did Luka make the most crazy buzzer beater look like a 2-pointer. You watch it again, it was a 3-pointer. We won the game because of it. A 91% free throw shooter in Grayson Allen missed both free throws with 3 seconds left. Like, what the fuck, man?
Yeah, it was crazy. It was that, first of all, obviously, I'm sure anybody who's watching this or listening to this has probably gone back and watched the replays of that shot 100 times, like you and I both have. It's insane. It's like the stuff. Man. And look, people who really watch sports, watch the NBA closely, know that most of the players in the league in practice and when they're just fucking around can hit shots, crazy shots, right? But it's very special players only hit shots like that in the game when the clock is expiring. That was a spectacular shot.
Well,
And the luck that it took to get to that spot is something we'll dive into as well. But
you look at they lose that game, and the narrative is it's a shit week, and they're a half game. Memphis is a half game on us. That a game and a half in the tiebreaker is huge right now. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. The Mavs have this is their besides the Lakers coming up twice. This is their soft spot in the schedule. I know tonight they play the Knicks, which is 2.0 Porzingis. Now, ever since Porzingis got basically bitch slapped by the Knicks, and we talked mad noise, and I think rightfully so, because he wasn't really up for that. He has been on a tear and playing extremely good basketball. And I tip my cap to that man. I kind of expect the same tonight. I think this will be the revenge game that we want. And this is one of those trap games too, because it's like they're coming off that huge win, and this team's young, man. And one thing I know about youth is they have these huge wins, and it seems like they fall flat the next game every time. We look at I wish I could explain why. You look at the Utah game, then we play Houston the next game and fall. Time and time again, this happens. So I think Carlisle's got them ready. It's just what's going on in the heads. I mean, the leader of our team is 22 years old. As a sports fan, I think you have to understand the maturation of where it's what happens. I mean, when Dirk was 22, where was the Mavericks as an organization when he was the top guy?
They were getting booted out of the first round every year.
No, and I think we're a little spoiled right now because we've seen LeBron bounce to three different teams, technically four because he went back to the Cavs, right? Yeah. And I think we both, if I was a betting man and going in Vegas, I would say he's going to be on another team before he retires, right? He's going to go somewhere else, maybe even playing with his son, wherever his son gets drafted, right?
I bet he goes back to Cleveland. I think he wants to end it as a Cav, but
probably. I would not be surprised whatsoever. And the issue with that is that a lot of people, because of LeBron and because of his group of banana boat super friends, a lot of people think that that's what's going to happen with Luka, and that it's a very big narrative on the radio. My boss talks to me about it. Like literally, we had that big win, and the first thing he comes up to me and says is, "Man, I'm really, it's just they don't build a good team, man. And they don't build a good team around Luka. I just don't think. I think he's going to leave. And I told him the same thing I'm going to tell our listeners right now, and that's that, man." That's like 5 years from now. No player has ever turned down their Supermax rookie deal. Number one.
No.
Anthony Davis, sure, that's a thing. But New Orleans was just bad. Like not even in the playoffs.
For years.
Yeah.
Years, not 1 or 2 years.
Historically bad.
Yeah. Terrible. And look, I'm not as unconcerned about it as you are. But I am not concerned about it. It's something that at the end of the day, we've got plenty of time. I think if we're in this same boat 3 years from now,
sure.
Where what I mean by the same boat is the roster is similar, we're finishing the season somewhere between the 6th and the 8th seed and in that same kind of position. No, two important things to know. Number one, the front office of the Mavericks have failed miserably.
Right.
Three things to know. The front office has failed miserably. The Luka has not progressed as a player. And at that point, we should genuinely start worrying. But right now, I don't think it's anything like, yeah, they need to work on building around him, but it's not panic button. We don't need to be stressing about it. We need to be rooting this team on and growing as a fan base with them, enjoying this process because we have a once in a generation player playing for our team right now. And so many people are focused so much on worrying about losing him that they're not even enjoying the fact that we're watching one of the 3 best players in basketball, 5 best players in all of basketball, and 22.
Everybody's so much focused on tomorrow, they're not enjoying today.
Absolutely.
And you can't do that, right? It's like we talked about the Cowboys last week and how, for me personally, my little little Lulu wants to say hi to the camera. Hey, Lulu. Here you go. Well, we talk about the Cowboys last season where there's been 2 seasons where, and there's only 16 games in NFL, so it's very easy
now.
Yeah, 17 now, excuse me. It's so much easier to pay attention to every game. And last year was one of the 2 seasons in the last decade where I had no hope for the Dallas Cowboys. And the reason why I didn't have hope was because I know Dak was our quarterback, and I knew there wasn't really much to gain from being so shitty. And there wasn't really much to watch because we're not developing Andy Dalton. It's not like when Romo went down and it's like, oh, this Dak guy, what's going on here? Or it's not like when Wade Phillips got shit canned and Jason Garrett started making people wear suits. And all of a sudden it's like, hey, they're bad. They're not making the playoffs, but this coach has got something going on. I think we're going to be okay. I want to see how he coaches the team. Sure. Well, people are treating it like, oh my gosh, they're not building. Like, does Luka even have a problem with our roster? Like, people are like, I get it, man. I know you got to think of something to talk about. And I know we all want the Mavs to be NBA champions. We all want Luka to be the MVP of the league, but does he fucking think this team sucks? Like, there's a narrative that people think that he just thinks we can't. That's what's going on now, and it's wild to me.
Well, okay, so I am again partially with you, but not all the way, because here's the thing: I don't think that he thinks the team sucks, but I think you can tell by the way that he plays in crunch time that he is not 100% confident in a lot of the guys on the roster, because at that point, earlier on in the game, he's dishing the ball all around. And then when it really comes to crunch time, he just decides it's going to be him. He's taking the ball to the rack, and he's doing, and part of that is he's a superstar. He's the leader of the team. That's what he's supposed to do.
Right.
But I also think it's I think it speaks to how he feels about the talent on the roster, but I don't think it's, again, a big deal, right? I think that it's just kind of the situation. I don't think it's bothering him the way that a lot of people are making it out to be. I think he's having fun. I think he'd like to be winning more games and better off. But you can usually tell when, as long as the game's going all right and they end up winning or even come close, he's having a good time. He likes playing with his team. You can see it.
This team is really close. Like, you saw the video of Brunson throwing water in his face after the game.
Yeah.
I mean, it's they've got chemistry. And you know what? I will never say that this front office is hitting a home run, but I know that them going for Porzingis was the right move. Now, in a bubble, we put everything and look at everything now. Clearly, it's like, man, maybe he wasn't the guy they should have went after, put all their eggs in the basket. We get why they did it, and they should have. Trading in the draft to go for Luka was absolutely a baller move and the right thing to do. So there's been some bad, but gosh, I mean, you're looking at everything's possible. It's kind of like having LeBron James. You have so much you can do with everything and can make happen. We've been in kind of salary cap hell, and that's going to change this offseason. And I'm not saying that means they're going to sign max free agents or whatever else. I personally think the Mavs are going to control who they get by trades. I don't know what they got up their sleeves, but I think in the offseason they're going to make it happen. But I'm enjoying the ride. They're fun to watch. Watch them with my kid, watch them with my wife. We're loving every game, and it just really pisses me off that we can't even as a fan base like sit here and just really fucking rock when we win a game like that. It's like, man, we were about to lose. We don't have this talent around him. He's going to leave. It's like, shut up, dude. Like, enjoy the win, bro. Let's at least wait till the offseason. Let's wait till we get embarrassed by 25 each to the Clippers in the playoffs again, and then we can talk or something like that, right?
Absolutely. And something I want to make note of, you were saying a second ago about KP and the trade and whether it was the right move to bring him here. A lot of people are, and we sometimes are down on KP, right? And a lot of people are upset with him and whatever. But, look, our complaints with KP a lot of the time are completely valid. But directing that frustration at the front office is not valid, because you have to look at what we gave up to get KP. Yeah. Realistically, nothing by comparison, right? Again, sure. He's not as good as we had hoped. He's not as good as they had hoped. But even knowing what we know about KP right now, would you do that trade again? Because I would.
For what we gave up and knowing what was drafted and everything else, I would say yes, completely, because you don't know there. It's not like it's, to draw a parallel to the NFL, we talk about the Bears signing Dalton, right? And then what the package they could have gotten for Sam Darnold, and you and I are both like, that's a no-brainer. I'd rather do that because if you're going to suck, you're in the quarterback lottery the next year. And if you're good, you're a genius because you just got the Ryan Tannehill experience basically with a quarterback that's good. So if you could tell me what player was available for the same cost that I think is better, maybe that works. Like I personally, I watch a lot of basketball and this world of positionless basketball is something that I'm growing on and understanding this last 5 years big time, right? And I've always been in the we need a big man, we need a big man, we need a
Old
big
school.
man. Right.
Old school. Yeah.
And I don't know what the second best player next to Luka needs to look like. I think personally, it needs to be like a Klay Thompson pre-injury, a shooting guard who is a lights out shooter, who's a defender who can rotate on the point guard so Luka can get a defensive break and then have to chase down the Trae Youngs of the world and everything else. I think maybe that is the kind of player he needs as his number two. I really don't know. I mean, he's so young. We're in year 3 of this thing. And
sorry, real quick. I'm sorry. Can I ask you a question? Because maybe you know the answer to this, because I don't. And I was thinking about it the other day.
Sure.
Why did they end up trading Harrison Barnes? It seems like he would be a perfect fit alongside Luka. Was there something behind the scenes or something about, was it money? I can't remember.
It was the money. They were going to go after Kemba Walker hard. They had enough money to get him. So it was Kemba Walker and just a number of players. They wanted to have that max money because you can go, correct me if I'm wrong, but you can go over the luxury tax because KP, they already knew he was going to sign and he's here. Yeah. So you signed him last. So they were going to bring a player in. So they wanted his money off because he was going to opt in to his contract. And kind of like how Tim Hardaway has been good this year. And hey, man, I'm happy he's here. He won't be here next year unless he signs a team friendly deal.
Which he won't.
Same thing. He opted into his deal. So same thing. That's why they moved Barnes. But Barnes was good, man. He's just not great.
He's not great.
Just a guy. He does the grinding and everything else. And we're better. Would this team would he be perfect for a team like this? Maybe. Dorian Finney-Smith has kind of become like a Harrison Barnes plus a little bit this last month.
I don't know about plus, but definitely more on the defensive side, definitely less on the scoring side.
Yeah. Harrison Barnes could post up, man. He was very, very good. Dorian Finney-Smith is a better 3-point shooter, I think, right now than he ever was.
Okay. I don't know the numbers. I'll take your word for it.
I'd have to, I watched a lot of the game. I remember I was kind of sick of Barnes towards the end, but one thing he could post up, dude. It just wasn't, they were trying to, like I said, they gutted that roster. They're moving on and they were trying to build right away. They went for the Porzingis move and it's like, dude, let's get a third star right now. And the really the nitty of it before we close out on the Mavs is there's only one team in the league that has 3 stars and it's the Nets.
Yeah.
It's not a thing anymore. It's about the duos and your duo has just got to be better than the rest. And
yeah. I mean, Golden State's got 3 if you count Klay Thompson as a star, but he's hurt. So he's out of the picture, but yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah, absolutely. And Draymond Green at this point, I don't know if you can consider him a star the way he's been playing.
Yeah, no, that's fair too. That's
fair. And maybe that's me not knowing basketball as well as some of the purists, because I would welcome Draymond Green on the Mavs in a heartbeat. I think he would do well and would be a very good player here too. But just saying that I don't think he's the height of what he was 5 years ago, 6 years ago, where he was maybe the best defensive player in basketball,
He was close. And I'll say this also, because you said just now, you not knowing basketball as well as the purist. I'm 100% with you in this new brand of basketball is so weird to me. You're adjusting to it. I am an old curmudgeon. I miss 92 to 96 basketball, not the years, but the scores where, the mid-range jump shot and posting up, big men posting up and a power forward actually shooting mid-range jumpers. And I loved all of that. And I get it. It's about the analytics and 2014 Golden State changed everything and that's all fine. But I'm with you. This new basketball, I knew old basketball so well that new basketball is still not computing right for me. I watch it, I love it, but I'm just not there yet.
Donovan Mitchell just helped to the locker room just now.
Uh-oh. That sucks. I like Donovan Mitchell.
I do too. He could be a Mav. You know that. He could have been a Mav. But we probably wouldn't have Luka if he was a Mav. So
probably not. But
goodness if he was there. But yeah, he just being helped to the floor, lower leg injury in Salt Lake right now. Oh man, Jamal Murray on Utah now. This
that's rough.
That is very rough. That is very rough. If you hear a dog yapping in the background, listeners, that's my little Lulu. She is in rare form for some reason, and she waited until podcast recording time to go nutso. We record this thing live and don't edit it, so that's we treat like a radio to this. So just enjoy the sounds of sweet Lulu. You have dogs, you know what it sounds like.
Absolutely.
So in closing for the Mavs, we played the Knicks tonight, and I do expect a win. It is here, if I'm not mistaken, which they've been very good at home. And like we touched on last episode, they have a nice stretch of games. The Lakers twice. Anthony Davis might be back. He is a Maverick killer.
Yeah.
So that's one thing to kind of keep an eye out for a little bit. But I don't think LeBron's going to make it for either one of the games. So the Mavs have a fighting chance, I think, to at least split with the Lakers coming up.
Good. Yeah, I was actually about to ask you if you had any new news on the LeBron front. I saw that Anthony Davis was getting ready
close,
but yeah,
it's getting close, man. It would not be out of the realm of surprising if he plays one of the games, honestly. But for sure, I would say Anthony Davis is coming. Yeah. And for those of you who are Mavs fans who get pissed at back-to-backs, Wednesday and Thursday is a back-to-back set. Detroit and the Lakers. You could probably bet your bottom dollar some people aren't playing versus Detroit.
For sure.
And it'll be a Dennis Smith revenge game. I can already tell. I can already smell the fucking narrative. I can already sense it right now. Absolutely. So let's move on from the Mavs. The whole point of today was just kind of talk about Luka's disgusting. It's awesome. Enjoy it, man. If you're an MFFL and you're listening to this, man, let the course happen. We can't control what the front office does. We can talk all the shit we want, and the fan base has been talking a lot of it since we won a championship, right? Yep. They're going to do what they do, man. And you just have to rock it. If you're a Mavs fan, it's going to be in sickness and in health till Luka do we part, right? So just rock that. Okay.
Absolutely.
So now Texas Rangers, before we get to it, the Texas Rangers are 6-7. Holy fuck. Why can't they play on Fridays or Saturdays? I don't know. I just really don't understand it. They lost 4 games in a row and looked like absolute dog shit between Friday getting no hit. The only person on base was Joey Gallo, who got walked. That is 13 straight games with Joey Gallo on base, though. That's every game he's got on base.
Yep.
But you have 4 losses in a row after being 500. They lost Friday, they lost Saturday, they lost Sunday, and then Monday they almost got no hit again by Tyler Glasnow. Now, the one thing I can say, their pitching hasn't cost them one game, but game 1. With Kyle Gibson. That is it. Yeah. That is it. And it's blowing my freaking mind.
I would have bet you thousands of dollars that if you'd asked me 2 weeks ago if that would have been the case, I would have bet you thousands of dollars that it would not, that the pitching would have blown many games.
Hey, I am an eternal optimist. And I love my teams, and I try to make them watchable. So I build narratives in my head that they are better than what they can be so that I keep watching. Sure. And there's a stat that I saw on the Twitter. They are first in the American League in ERA at 2.18.
What?
Our pitching staff.
Wow. That's terrific.
We are 4th in the AL in WHIP at 1.15. Wow.
I had no idea. I mean, I did not know it was that good. I knew it was good. I didn't know
that. Wild, dude.
That's crazy.
Isn't that wild. Yeah, they're certainly surprising, and they're fun to watch, dude. And besides that first game, their pitching on that no hitter, it was 1-0.
Yeah.
I mean, Arihara finally got his first win.
Yeah.
We talked about that before, and that's one thing we're going to touch on because he's passed the eyeball test both starts, man.
I agree. A lot of people,
he's an all-star pitcher or anything like that, but I think he's an okay piece for your rotation, and he's certainly
in 2 years. In 2 years, when the rebuild is kind of really taking shape, you know what I mean? Our our number 2 overall draft pick should hopefully by then be cracking the everyday lineup, or an everyday starter.
Right.
I could see him being a solid number 4 starter in a quality rotation. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
A solid number 3 or 4, maybe even 5th starter, depending on how things go, in a really solid rotation.
Yeah, and I've been impressed with Dunning as well.
Yes.
He was what? So far
dude.
he pitched a 5-inning game, and then he pitched a 3-inning game, and I don't think he's allowed a run yet. Am I crazy?
I believe you are correct. Hold on, I'm gonna check his ERA.
Yeah, let's do that, because I've been, like I said, it's blowing my mind, like completely. What I
Okay, no, so he has his ERA for the year, is 1.
So he's one run.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, he's allowed 1 run. So, that's terrific. And again, it's not going to stay there. And so far, it's a very small sample size, but the pitching has definitely been a surprise. It's been a bright spot.
We're taking this thing 1 week at a time with the Rangers.
Sure, you have to.
And I think this is going to be our first Friday win of the season tonight versus the Orioles. I feel it, man. I think Folty's going to strike out 10 and get a W. That's my bold proclamation. 10 strikeouts. That's bold. It's bold, Jerry. It's bold.
Well, I don't know about the 10 strikeout part, but I can get with you on a win. I think they're going to win tonight. It's who's the next series after the Orioles?
Hold on, I'll tell you, man. So first off, too, there's like 10 teams worse than the Rangers right now. They're 6 and 7. So tonight has a chance to put 500. They're thoroughly in the 2-week championship mix.
Absolutely, yeah.
If that's a thing, which it's not, obviously.
And again, it's the truth is I don't care really if the team is competitive down the line in it for the division, because it's not going to matter. I just like seeing that some of the young players are playing well. It's nice to see that the glimmers of hope, the stuff that is actually going to be here in the long term, maybe panning out the way we had hoped.
That's what you want. It's like we talked about how unwatchable the Cowboys were because there was no hope. There was nothing on that defense that told you it was going to be better because Diggs was injured. The coach, you knew the coach was going to be gone. There wasn't any of that, right? And then Andy Dalton, we're not built. It's not like it's a rookie it's not like Joe Burrow, where it's like you saw what he had, then he got injured. Okay, we're going to get a good offensive line. He's going to come back. This is an exciting thing. So it's Orioles. All right, they should be able to win that series.
Yep.
Here's where it gets nice. Yeah. Monday, Angels, 3-game series.
Yeah.
That's big. That's going to tell us a lot about who this team is.
Very much so.
And then we play a 3-game series with the White Sox, who's also a very good team.
Yeah. The White Sox are going to win that series unless something crazy happens.
And then we play the Angels again.
Okay.
And then we play the Red Sox, who are red hot and number 1 in their division also.
Yeah.
So it's and then the Twins. So it's not it's never easy, obviously.
No, but in a, like you said, take it a week at a time. Take it not even less than that. Take it a series at a time. Just
sure.
And like you've said, and like we've said this entire time, look for the bright spots. They are worth watching. And just, find a player or two, a young player that you can grab onto and become a fan of, because there's a couple of them that are going to be here for a while and hopefully will turn into something.
My first at bat with Willie Calhoun last night was a home run.
Oh yeah,
it really was. Yeah, and with Chris Davis. By the way.
That's your guy. You love Willie Calhoun
too. Yeah. Well, with Chris Davis also. I had home runs with both of them their first at bat. I was like, oh, that's just beautiful.
That's cool. Beautiful. Willie Calhoun's your guy. He's your guy.
Yeah, I'm rooting for the guy, man. I really am. Nice. I like Nate Lowe too, man. I would love, nothing would pump me up more than to see Willie Calhoun get it together and become, if we could have if Nate Lowe and Willie Calhoun and Gallo could become like a 3-man base of awesomeness for that offense and they build on this pitching, I would be a very happy Ranger fan.
Yeah.
If that could happen. And, with baseball, you never know, man. The one thing that I do know is that this is going to be a weird summer because normally the NBA is over in June and football's not starting until August. So we have a lot of time with just baseball, right? Yeah. It's a lot closer. It's a lot like the NBA is going to be over in the end of July now.
Yeah.
Because of the
late start. Yeah.
So we're only going to have like a month period where it's just baseball, which is fine by me. You know what I mean? I also watch professional wrestling in that gap as well because I'm an uber nerd like that. I know. I could sense the eye rolls. It was WrestleMania week this week. Did you watch, Brian?
No, I'm afraid not, Zach.
Yeah.
No, I'm not even going to insult. I'm just going to say no.
I watched it on the Peacock. It's on the streaming network, the Peacock, the NBC one. Absolutely. But yeah, we're not going to bore anybody with that. That's my thing, and that's my guilty pleasure that I have for some weird reason that I can't explain. No. So, any other Ranger Nuggets? Or are you ready to move on to the boys?
Let's do the Cowboys.
Okay. All right, let's do this. So, what the Dallas Cowboy talk is going to be is, first off, we're going to kind of center around the 10th pick because right now, all intents and purposes, that is where the Cowboys are going to pick. Okay, is right there. But Brian and I also are going to talk about players that he likes. Brian watches film. He is our draft guru. And we're going to talk about players that we could go for if we trade back, if we move back into the first round, or if we're at the beginning of the second round, players that are in the secondary or on defense that could really help this team. That's going to be the point. Aldon Smith, before we do get started on that, is no longer a free agent, no longer in the Cowboys' plans. He signed with Seattle, who actually tried to trade for him last year. So there you go.
Yeah. And they decided they weren't going to bring him back. There's some off the field stuff going on with him.
Yeah.
I don't know all the details, but
I've been mum on it, which is good, man. They shouldn't air that man's.
No, it's not exactly. If you have paid attention to his life, you can probably put one and one together and get the two on your own. I wish him the best.
Sure. He did very well for being away from, hell of a story being away from football for so long. It was
absolutely. Yeah. I mean, if Alex Smith hadn't come back from one of the worst leg injuries I've ever seen, he probably would have been the comeback player of the year, or at least right in there with him.
Sure. But, yeah. Sure. No, that's absolutely 100% valid. So before we get started on draft talk, I have something that I want to ask you.
Yeah.
Do you think it's as much nonsense as I do to guess what the Cowboys' record is before the draft even happens?
Yeah, it does. Right. We have no idea. I think it's complete and total nonsense talking about records until at least the middle of August.
Sure.
Right. We have no idea who's going to be on the roster. There are still significant free agents out there that are not on teams right now. There are a lot of things that, I mean, again, this is not going to happen, but hypothetically, what if the Cowboys right now, you and I predict that they're going to go 13-4, right? And then tomorrow, as soon as we end this podcast, Jerry says the N-word accidentally, and 4 or 5 major players on the team demand trades. That's right. I'm not saying any of those things are going to happen, right? But the point is, there's entirely too many things, too much unknown.
Sure.
Right now, it's way too much up in the air.
Yeah, you're always a massage parlor away from not having your star player, apparently.
Absolutely. Or 22 massage parlors.
Or 20. Jeez, man. Like, God, bro. Like, I'm not even gonna. I can't even fathom.
Nothing. I mean, that's really just nothing even needs to be said.
No. Yeah. No. The man likes massages. It's okay, I guess. Wow.
And it's one thing I will say though is when all the Dak contract drama was happening, there was a whole lot of people who wanted us to just trade Dak to Houston for old Mr. Massage Parlor. And boy, am I sure fucking glad that didn't happen. I don't want any part of that shit.
Yeah, I thought it was a no-brainer for Miami when the rumor was they were going to trade the number 3 pick, right?
And 2. Yeah.
3 and 2 for Watson straight up. I was like, that's a no-brainer if I'm Miami. And that's a great trade for Houston too, I think.
Yeah.
But,
Everybody wins.
yeah.
Yeah.
No, not a good look. Not in this day and age. I mean, not in any day and age, but we're especially on different times, obviously now.
Yeah, absolutely. Post two, that's a real bad thing.
When the schedule gets released, I like to think of the ebb and flows of the schedule because that makes me think more of what a possibility of what the schedule could be. Like, for instance, was it 2 years ago where they never had 2 home games in a row?
I think it was, yeah.
And then that's fucking wild. Like, that's hard, dude. Like,
Yeah.
it's that the way your body's traveling and going, and people don't take things like that into account. That's huge. Like, it's hard to get like momentum built.
Well, and so like on the note of the traveling thing, everybody thinks that the reason why home field advantage exists is because of the crowd and the fans. Don't get me wrong, that is a part of it, but it's like 15 to 20% of what home field advantage is. Home field advantage is about the travel and about sleeping in your own bed and about all that kind of stuff. And when
your wife and kids before you go to work in the morning, man.
Absolutely. All those just the routine, the similar environment. And
Sure.
when you have no home games back to back, that makes it very difficult because every single week you're literally doing something different. There's never a back to back of the same thing. Because even if you're traveling, travel times are different, travel location is different. So it's all it makes it tough. But anyway, go ahead.
And when you're dealing with young teams, you look at the Cowboys are a youngish NFL team. Absolutely. It's hard not to want to enjoy seeing things when you go places. You know what I mean?
Go out, the nightlife, the whatever else. It's a bunch of, for the most part, the vast majority of the roster is under the age of 30. I imagine, I'm not 100% on this, but I imagine a lot of them are single and probably want to go out and have a good time.
Sure.
And when you the road life can that's tough.
Was it the Jags a couple of years ago on the London game? They were all out partying in London the night before, and they like a couple of players went to jail, right?
Yeah.
Good times.
Yeah. That's because they spend their life in Jacksonville where there's nothing better to do, so they finally got to go to a real city and have a little time to have some fun.
Yeah, their owner owns the AEW wrestling brand now, so they can go to that. There's always that, I guess. Okay, so let's get to it, Brian.
Okay,
Brian. First off, let's talk about Pick 10. Okay, so we are pretty much honestly in the same position we were last week this time. There's been no, except for the fact that it seems like Kyle Pitts to Atlanta is the ultimate smoker ultimately going to happen. Seems like the only thing. And then number 3 pick, it's went from where it's not going to be Mac Brown anymore. They're thinking of Justin Fields now.
Is Mac Jones. But Mac Jones. Look, I'll say this.
It's lying season.
It is. It's absolutely lying season. If you're a Cowboys fan, you want Mac Jones to go number 3, right? You absolutely do. Kyle Pitts, no matter who goes number 3, Kyle Pitts is like 99% chance that he is not coming. He's not going to make it to 10. Right?
4 to 8, man. 4 to 8, 100%.
Yeah. He's too good, and there's too many teams that are not going to be able to pass up on that talent. Mm-hmm. So I think just like last year, even though it did work out, CeeDee Lamb fell to us at 17. I think if you run that draft now, there's no chance that he, if you do a redraft, he doesn't make it to 17. But nevertheless, I think you can pretty much put Kyle Pitts out of your head. It's not going to happen. It's just not. So it's, we can there, in my opinion, it's one of 4 players, right? If they pick at 10, it's one of 4. It's either Patrick Surtain, it's either J.C. Horn, it's Rashawn Slater, or it's Penei Sewell. And for those who don't know, Patrick Surtain is a cornerback from Alabama. J.C. Horn is a cornerback from South Carolina. Rashawn Slater is an offensive tackle / offensive guard from Northwestern. And Penei Sewell is an offensive tackle from Oregon. That's one of those 4. That's
Brian. I would be okay with any one of those 4 players. Would
absolutely. You? Absolutely, 100%. I'll tell you the order in which I'd prefer it. For me, Penei Sewell is 1.
Yes,
Patrick,
I agree.
Patrick Surtain is 2. J.C. Horn is 3, and Rashawn Slater is 4. But I think if you're at 10 and any one of those 4 players is there, I think you take them and you're happy. You go about your day because you've got an instant starter at one of those, from one of those 4 players. Potentially, a couple of them I could see making a Pro Bowl in the next 2 years.
So that's 4 guys, correct?
Yep.
So here's my question to you. The New England Patriots pick 15th.
Correct.
Right? So that would be 4 picks after.
Yeah.
So would you, knowing like if you're picking at 10 and all 4 of those guys are there, if New England's moving up, they're moving up for a quarterback that fell, right?
Yep.
That means you're getting probably the leftover of those 4, honestly, because you've got the Giants, you've got the Eagles, and forgive me for who picks up after them for not knowing what team it is.
It's all right. You got the Giants, you got the Eagles. 13 is the Chargers. 14 is the Vikings.
Okay.
And then 15 would be the Patriots. And to be honest, if you get to 10 and those 4 players, let's play it out where let's say Mac Jones does go number 3, right? Okay. The rest of the 9 players go in front of us. We're sitting there at pick 10, and you've got those 4 players plus one of the quarterbacks, right? Justin Fields or the kid from North Dakota, Trey Lance, one of those quarterbacks, and then those 4 players. You absolutely trade back to 15 if New England's ready to do it, because you're going to lose a couple of them, but I think at least 1, maybe 2 of them make it to you at 15, because the Vikings may go edge rusher. They really need a pass rusher. And they
there's
go
really good wide receivers that are still sitting there at that point, if that's the case, probably too.
Well, so here's the catch. Well, no, but because if you're sitting at 10 and there's a quarterback and those 4 players.
I mean, Waddle probably went already.
All the wide receivers. So at that point, you figure 4 quarterbacks have gone, 3 wide receivers have gone, Kyle Pitts has gone, and some wild card, That's that. So at that point, again, I think realistically, I don't think all 4 of the players are going to be there at 10. I think Penei Sewell probably goes early.
Right. I think he's a Bengal, man. I think he goes to the Bengals personally.
It's looking that way. It's either going to be him. I think it'll either be him, Kyle Pitts, or Jamar Chase.
Right.
But I think either way, I think Penei Sewell goes. I think maybe Rashawn Slater goes to Carolina, possibly. But I think you're going to have your pick of the cornerbacks, of the 2 cornerbacks. And even if hypothetically you trade back to 15 and none of those players are there, there's still a handful of players that I'm okay with at 15 that I wouldn't necessarily be okay with at 10, but I would be okay with at 15 and still feel like we got a nice solid pick.
Because you're probably getting a second, right?
Yeah, you're probably, you probably more than likely. And so right now the Cowboys have pick 10 and then pick 44 in the second round. The Patriots have pick 15 and then they have pick 46 in the second round. So what you would end up with more than likely is pick 15, pick 44, and pick 46, which that's great. I am all like that personally is my dream scenario.
Let me ask you. So if Bill Belichick comes calling, okay, there's a quarterback on the list and you've got the fan base is like, fuck yes, man. Surtain is right there. Okay. We can get him. We can get our cornerback. This is what we need. I think the team will be better off with a player we get at 15th and a potential second and third round extra pick, because you dictate when someone's calling you for a quarterback, the terms are yours.
You can hold them up for a rent.
Least. Yeah. Would you rather have an extra first next year or a second and third this year?
Okay.
I say second and third this year.
Here's the thing, right? I'm probably with you, but you could you could convince me that the first next year is the better option, and here's why. This draft, because of COVID, there's less information available about more players than any draft in the past 30 years, right? Now, the Cowboys are in a spot, a lot of people, even though they went, they looked like hot garbage last year for a lot of the year, a lot of people within the team feel like they're in a win now window. You've got your franchise quarterback, you've got an aging offensive line. Excuse me. So they probably don't want to put off getting that first round draft pick till next year. But I'll put it to you this way. I think if Jerry's making the call, I think they go for this year. I think if Steven's making the call, they're taking the first round pick next year.
And for me, I think I'm trying to think unowner about it. And the reason why I think second and third benefits this year is because of the amount of money you're paying a wide receiver and your quarterback, especially, and you need bodies. And this defense, the whole reason I want to trade back is not because I don't think Patrick Surtain is a great player, because I sure as hell do. I just think that one man is not enough to make this defense become what I think it needs to be for us to be a Super Bowl caliber team. But I sure as hell think that if they get a cornerback and a safety and another edge rusher, quality out of the top 50 of the draft, I do think that's enough to make some serious fucking noise and be good.
Well, and so I'm absolutely with you. Like I said, if it were me, I had a gun to my head, I'd probably take the second and the third. Now, to be clear, I don't think they're going to get a second and a third, even if it's for a quarterback, for one reason and one reason alone. If you're the Patriots and you're at 15, and it's Matt, and the quarterback that's available more than likely is going to be Mac Jones, right? None of the teams between us at 10 and them at 15 are taking a quarterback. The Patriots know it. We know it. Everybody else knows it.
The football team and the Eagles, though, dude.
The football team's at 19.
Oh, that's right.
So the football team's not in it.
The Giants and Eagles, excuse me.
The Giants and the Eagles. The Giants aren't taking Mac Jones, right? The Eagles have already told you, they've already let us know that there's only two quarterbacks in this draft that they value, right? That they're willing to pick. So it's not the Chargers, right? And it's not the Vikings. So the Patriots are, if they want to move up to 10, they want to do it to make sure that nobody brokers a trade with one of those four teams or one of those three teams between us, and swoops in and steals it. So you can hold them up a little bit, but I don't think it's not going to be the same as normal quarterback move up trades. I think you could probably get the second, or you can probably get a first next year, but I don't think you could get a second and a third, maybe a second and a fourth or something like that. But I'd still do it, right? Because I think, to go off what you were saying a minute ago about Patrick Surtain. Patrick Surtain's a perfectly fine player, and I'm absolutely content drafting him at 10. But I am also more than ready and willing to move away all the way down to 15, because Patrick Surtain, while being a perfectly fine player, is not Jalen Ramsey. He's not Deion Sanders. He's not, if it were a normal draft year, there would be a defensive player like Myles Garrett, or one of these clear-cut, absolute number one defensive players, and there isn't one this year. You can look at all the draft experts around the country, and not everybody, but a lot of people have different defensive players listed as the top defensive player. Some have Some still have Caleb Farley. Some have Patrick Surtain. Some have Azeez Ojulari. I mean, some have Micah Parsons. Some have Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. It's all over the place. And so the point is, with that much, I guess the point is I would rather have more darts, because I think it's 50-50 whether JC Horn has just as good a career as Patrick Surtain, if not better.
Right.
So let me go back 5 picks and pick him instead, but I'm also going to get to pick another top 50 player.
Yeah, that's my thought. Yes, thank you. That's 100% that's why I'm team trade back, because I do think we can do fine and get it. For some reason though, I'd rather us have 2 second-round picks, because we make some fucking weird second-round picks, man. Like the tight end a few years ago, and then it was, Jalen Smith obviously he was redshirted basically the first year. It seems like
that's the round where they take risks, right?
Yeah.
The way the Cowboys build their board, there's a lot of teams that do it this way. There's a lot of teams that don't. So when there's people with medical or off the field stuff, they don't let that affect the way that they grade their players on their board. And so when you get to the second round, for example, Jalen Smith, they had him graded as like the 6th or 7th best player on their board.
Sure.
And so when you get to the top of the second round, you're looking, and there's this big, huge gap between Jalen Smith and the next player down, because he's got basically no knee, and it leads to and they do that. It leads to them taking risks on players. Sometimes it pays off, like Sean Lee, although, Sean Lee spent his whole career getting dinged up. You end up with Bruce Carter, same kind of thing. You end up with Jalen. They take risks. Sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't. The thing is, this year, I think the quality of players available in the second round is my favorite round in this draft, right? There's so much depth and quality, because it's a weird draft. There's no clear-cut, holy shit, number 1 defensive player, but there is some really solid depth through the first 80 to 100 picks. I think the second and third rounds is where we're going to make our money this year. That's where we get it done.
Let's talk about it then. You gave me a list of players that you've watched film on that you like a lot, and you want our fans to know who they are and what they're about.
Absolutely.
So let's pull these guys up. The first person on your list, these are players you have as early first, late early second.
Let me throw one out real quick.
Okay.
One specifically, because a little bit of rumblings came out in Cowboys universe this week, and that's a guy named Trayvon Merrick. He's a safety from TCU, right?
I like safety.
Yeah, it's spelled Moehrig, Moehrig, but it's pronounced Merrick. It came out this week that the Cowboys, I'm trying to remember the word that was used. It came out from Mike Fisher that they're infatuated. No, that was Kyle Pitts, but they are very interested in obtaining his services. So if they trade back further than 15, let's say that they trade with Chicago, right? Hypothetically, they trade with Chicago or somebody else who wants to move up to 10.
Right.
Trayvon Merrick is a name to pay attention to. He's got all the size you're looking for. He's like 6'1", 6'2", 205, 206. He's athletic as hell. He is probably not the most alert and instinctive safety in the draft, but he has all the tools you're looking to build on, and he's one of those guys that the floor is a little lower than some of the other safety prospects, but the ceiling is very high. He could, in 3 years, be the best safety in the league.
Okay. I like it.
I like it a lot. I like it. I can't wait for them to draft a safety. I've been asking them to draft a safety for 5 years.
He would be a second round pick, correct? Like he'd be like our target in the second round.
I'll put it to you this way. If he's there at 44, he's the pick, right?
Okay.
The catch is he's probably not going to be there at 44. So there's a good chance, and a lot of people connected to the Cowboys have kind of been hinting that this is a strong possibility, that instead of trading back what they may do is pick at 10, pick Horn or Surtain, one of those guys, and then take their second round pick and another later pick and package it together to trade back into the first round and into the late 20s and go get him there. Another guy that falls into that same category, and then we'll move to the other guys you were going to talk to, is a guy named Zaven Collins. He's a linebacker out of Tulsa, and the Cowboys have it's come out 4 months ago that the Cowboys have a first round grade on him. And just so people know, there's 32 picks in the round, right? But the average number of players with a first round grade for a team is about 18, right? Somewhere between 15 to 20 players. Each team will have 15 to 20 players with first round grades. Well, they have one on Zaven Collins. So that's another player that they could possibly move back up into. He's not in play at 10. It's too rich for him there. But if they trade real far back or trade back into the first round, he's a guy they could go for as well.
Like if the Saints were a wild card and called us and we're like, we want the 10th pick because we're not sold Jameis Winston's the future, and he has a Patrick Mahomes feel about Trey Lance and he's available there.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly. Boom. At that point, that's a situation where you fleece them. You take, they don't have pants when we're done with that trade.
Right.
Because we're moving so far back and they're calling you. So at that point, we get their first rounder this year, their first rounder next year, a 2 and a 3, something like that. I mean, it's rich. It's a lot, but it's also moving from 10 to 25 or whatever it is.
If Trey Lance falls to 10, they could get a king's ransom for the 10th pick for sure.
Yeah. Trey Lance or Justin Fields, either one. And a lot of people have Justin Fields falling that far. Right. If it happens, the Cowboys are going to have multiple suitors. There's going to be a lot of people calling them for that pick. And I'm all about that. I'm all about it.
The Joneses will be in their Dumb and Dumber suits, just getting ready for the ball.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So the first player on your list is an offensive tackle, Christian Darrisaw. Please tell me about this.
So Christian Darrisaw, he is the offensive tackle from Virginia Tech. Prototypical size, unlike a lot of the other guys, the other offensive linemen that we've talked about, most like Rashawn Slater, Penei Sewell. We talked a little bit about a guy named Elijah Vera Tucker, which I believe he's on the list as well. All of those guys have a little bit of position flex, right? They could play left tackle, they could play guard. Rashawn Slater could play all 5 positions in the line. Darrisaw isn't so much that guy. And so if we draft Darrisaw, it's a good and a bad pick because there are a lot of people who think he's the best pure left tackle in this class.
Okay.
But if Tyron is healthy, he's sitting.
That's a big if.
It's a big if, and there is no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Tyron is going to miss somewhere between 2 to 6 games. It's just going to happen. Every year, you can count on it. But
if he misses a game, it's just not a game. It's going to be, unless it's lined up with a bye week, with the way his body works, right?
Yeah, absolutely. He's going to miss some time every year. And Christian Darrisaw will play then. But it's not, a lot of people, myself included, aren't really stoked about the idea of using a first-round pick on a player who's only going to play in 4 or 5 games. Right?
No.
But he is and can be the left tackle of the future. The only knock on him is apparently there's rumors around that he's a little bit kind of lazy, and you can watch, like in his film, he's not a finisher, right? Like when he'll block a guy just good enough where if you watch like Rashawn Slater, that dude blocks a guy, and if he's not moving on to the second level to then move on to block somebody else, he is going to drive that dude into the ground. He is going to make whoever he's blocking regret ever even trying to come near him. Christian Darrisaw is not that way. He is big enough. He's strong enough. He's athletic enough. He's got all the size you're looking for, but he's going to do his job, and that's it. He's not one of those nasty, mauling, just grind a guy into the ground offensive linemen. And you like to see that. At least I like to see that in my offensive.
Yeah.
So there's the whole
big dudes that are considered lazy, because big dudes that are considered lazy can turn into obese.
They get fat real quick. They get fat real quick.
You get older and cheeseburgers hit you different, man. And if you're lazy on top of that, that's
Yeah. And again, he's probably one of the 2 or 3 most talented offensive linemen in the whole class, but I think he's going to go a little bit later than he should because of that.
Okay. So we've got defensive tackle Christian Barmore on your list next. So tell me about him.
He's a defensive tackle from Alabama. So the knock on him, let me get this out of the way, is he wasn't even a full-time starter at Alabama. Now, to be fair, Alabama is basically a pro team, it's Alabama. But they used him early in the year, they used him on passing situations only. He's a big guy. He's like 6'4", 320, something like that. He's a big old boy, and he's built like a 1 technique, but he's got the abilities to get up the field like a 3 technique. And defensive tackles who can rush the passer are exceptionally valuable. The question is, if he's not even good enough to be a full-time starter on a college team, is he good enough to be a first-round pick in the NFL? I don't know, but he, towards the end of the season and into the college football playoff, he turned it on, and he actually was the defensive MVP of the college football playoff. Okay. So he definitely finished really, really strong. He fills a need for the Cowboys, and I would not mind them picking him. There are other places I'd rather go, even if it's later in the round, because he's not even my favorite defensive tackle in the class. My pet cat is another guy that we'll probably get to here in a bit, but there's definitely rumors that the Cowboys like him. So,
and he's got a 2nd round grade. Is that correct?
For me, I grade him as a 2nd round player. Yeah.
Okay. Perfect.
The catch is, this is a really weak defensive tackle class by normal standards.
So a team like the Chiefs or someone like that could.
Yeah, I think he'll probably go in the 20s just because he's a defensive tackle who can rush the passer, and that's exceptionally valuable. Right. And like I said, there's only 15 to 20 first-round graded players in the whole thing. I have 18 first-round graded players in the whole draft. So, take it for what it is. There's going to be 12 players, 14 players that get drafted in the first round that I don't have a first-round grade on. So, he's going to be one of them more than likely. But late into the first round, I wouldn't mind them picking him. I'd rather them go another way, but I wouldn't hate it.
Sure. Okay, so Cowboys fans are drunk for cornerbacks. We were burnt so bad last year. The next man on your list is Greg Newsome. Tell me about this guy.
So Greg Newsome, he's a cornerback from Northwestern. He's one of he might be the most ideal fit for Dan Quinn's system, right? I don't think he might be the best cornerback in the draft, but he's got an injury history. He's never once in all of his years at college, he's never completed a season. Every year he has missed at least 2 games, right? Oh, wow. So he's got an injury history, but the dude can play. It's just all there is to it. It's just kind of like what we were talking about with Tyron Smith. Are you okay using a first-round pick for a guy that is not going to play all 17 games? It's not going to happen. You can just bank on it. So it's, and that's how it is though. When you're drafting that late, you get a guy that talented. There's going to be holes in his game. would you rather have a guy who's less talented but is going to be there all the time, or a supremely talented player who's got an injury history? That's kind of the balance.
Okay. Now, the next player you mentioned earlier on the pod, it's Micah Parsons, the linebacker.
Yeah, and before the draft season really kind of took off and everybody was just kind of throwing out projections and stuff like that, he was projected to be a top 5 player.
Wow.
A lot of people have him as the best defensive player in the draft. He's a high school defensive end who's only played linebacker for 2 years. He's an off-ball linebacker, so he's not like a 3-4 outside linebacker. He's a linebacker in the same vein as Jalen Smith or Leighton Vander Esch. He's 6'4". He's 250, 255. He runs a 4.39 40. He's massive. He is, I don't want to say the most athletic linebacker prospect ever, but top 5 maybe, right? He's freaky. The problem is, like I said, he's only been playing linebacker for 2 years. So much in the same way that Jalen Smith will get misdirected sometimes, he'll misdiagnose a play, and all of a sudden he's 10 yards running in the other fucking direction when the ball is right, going up the B gap. That'll happen from time to time with Micah Parsons. The other thing is, I think if you're going to use even a mid to high first round pick on a linebacker, they probably need to be able to cover, be really good in coverage. And he's okay at best. They didn't really use him much in coverage. What he can do exceptionally well for a linebacker is rush the passer.
Okay.
Now, the thing with him is it's boom or bust, right? If he hits his potential, he's a Hall of Famer, and I'm not exaggerating. If he hits his potential, he is a first ballot Hall of Famer.
Jeez.
He is Bobby Wagner.
Okay.
But if he doesn't hit his potential, he's a slightly more athletic Jalen Smith.
All right. I don't think we want to hear that.
So exactly, right?
Yeah.
A lot of people expected before the draft process started, they connected him to the Cowboys. There's a lot of rumors that the Cowboys are kind of infatuated with him too, because they love linebackers. He's scary athletic. He's also got there are some rumors about him being immature, right? He got in a little bit in trouble at Penn State for a hazing scandal. But if he hits his potential, he's Bobby Wagner or better.
Wow. All right. Up next, we've got, excuse me on the pronunciation of this, it's Aziz Ojulari.
You got it.
Nail it. All right. Aziz Ojulari,
yeah,
edge rusher. Tell me about this man.
So for me, he's my edge one, right? He's from Georgia. He's a bit of an undersized player, right? And the way Georgia used him, Georgia ran a lot of odd fronts, 3-4 type stuff, right? So he's kind of a pass rushing outside linebacker, kind of, that kind of mold. Kind of, to make an unfair comparison, and that he's not as good as a prospect, but in the DeMarcus Ware vein, right?
Okay.
He's about 6'3", about 240, but he's very fast. He's very bendy. He's very athletic. He's got a great motor. And the thing about him, what excites me about him is there are only a handful of guys. I mean, there's just not very many people who can do what he does, which is, we call it, a lot of scouts call it being bendy, right? Where you can speed rush and bend your body. Your ankles are at a weird, like almost 90-degree angle, bend around an offensive tackle. They're just not, Randy Gregory can do it, right? But there just aren't very many people who can do that in the world. It's a very, very, very difficult thing to do. And he can do that. He's got a lot to learn. He's unrefined. He's got I think, again, if he were the pick, I think Dan Quinn could get a hold of him and work some wonders with him. And he could be a top 5 edge player in the league in 3 years.
Wow.
Now that doesn't mean that he will, but he has that natural ability. So,
all right. So another linebacker, we've got Nick Bolton.
Nick Bolton is, remember how we were talking about Micah Parsons, freaky athletic, but just might not have it between the ears?
Right.
Nick Bolton is the exact opposite of that. Right.
So he like knows the film, studies the playbook, knows everything, knows where the ball, reads the play.
When you watch him play, it's like he knows the offense's play call. It's like he was in the offense's huddle, right? He's not the most athletic dude. He's not the biggest guy in the world. He's not the fastest guy in the world. He's not the strongest guy in the world. He's about 5'11", 6 foot right in there. He's about 240 pounds. He tested average, very average, like 4.6 40, very average. But he is never wrong. Every play, he diagnoses it perfectly. He's in the backfield immediately. He is a football diagnosing computer. He knows it. He's there 100% of the time. He's my favorite linebacker. I don't think he's the best linebacker. I don't have him ranked the highest, but he's my favorite.
Okay. All right. So let's move on now. We've got an offensive tackle, Tevin Jenkins, that you have a good grade on.
That guy, remember I was talking about Darisaw, how he doesn't finish. Tevin Jenkins is the exact opposite of that. He's not as technically refined. He's a fucking bully. He's one of those guys, and I mean it in the best way possible. He is a mauler. He is just going to just push people around, and he wants to break their spirit. He's from Oklahoma State. I don't have a ton to say about him. He's a bully.
Hey, all right. I like it. Okay, so now we've got 3 players left. We have a safety, and cornerback. And like I said, for some reason, I've said it every podcast, I just for some reason feel that we're either moving back and that's why we're taking defense, or 10 is going to be an offensive player of some sort, I think. So second round grades on secondary are important because these are guys that might be around. So we've got Trevor Moehrig. Is that right?
That's the safety I talked about at the beginning. Trayvon Moehrig.
Gotcha.
Yeah, from TCU.
Okay, that's the guy. That's the guy we want. And you think we'd have to move back into the first possibly to get him?
Yeah, probably. We'll see how the draft falls, but it would not surprise me if we'd have to move into the mid to late 20s to get him.
All right. And you've already talked about the pluses and minuses for him. We've got Richie Grant, safety. Tell me about this.
Richie Grant is my favorite safety in the draft. Now, it has come out that the Cowboys are not super high on him, right?
Okay.
The reason they're not super high on him is because his floor, the reason I like him so high is because his floor is super high. If he came out right now and never really improved from where he is right now, he is still a average to above average starting free safety in the league, right? But his ceiling is not nearly as high as some of the other safety prospects. He's 23, so he's a little bit of an older prospect. He's from the University of Central Florida. He's not nearly as athletic as like Trayvon Moehrig. He's not as big. He's a little smaller. But what he is, in the same way that Nick Bolton is always diagnosing everything just right, that's what he does from the safety position. He diagnoses it just right. He's not as athletic as a bunch of other guys, but because he can diagnose coverages and routes, he can diagnose route combinations before other guys can. He's making breaks on the ball that other players wouldn't get to, right? So if he was as athletic as Trayvon Moehrig, he'd be a top 10 pick, right? But he's not. And he's older. So I like him a lot. The Cowboys don't get your hopes up, but I do like him a lot.
All right. And then last but not least, we've got cornerback Fetu Melifawu. I think I butchered that completely. I could not. I even Googled. I could not find a way to pronounce that name.
It's all right. It's Ifeatu Melifonwu. Ifeatu Melifonwu. Now,
I'll take your word.
Yeah, this is a guy that he's, again, maybe he's not the best corner in the draft by any stretch, talent-wise, but if Greg Newsome wasn't there, I would say that he might be the best fit for the Cowboys for what they look for corners to do. He's 6'2", maybe 6'3". He's got crazy long arms. He's super athletic. He's I think he ran like a 4.38 40. He can jump out of the gym. He fits exactly what what Dan Quinn's system asks cornerbacks to do. He's from Syracuse. Honestly, the big knock on him isn't even a knock on him. It's on his brother, Obi Melifonwu, who was drafted by the Raiders 2 or 3 years ago. Very high. He was taken in the first round and is out of the league right now, if I'm not mistaken. Ooh. Turns out his brother was an incredibly talented player who just didn't really give a shit about football.
Okay.
So he cared enough to get to the draft, get a payday, but apparently he was always late for meetings. He didn't work hard. He was just a lazy dude who didn't give a shit about football and just fucked off. So unfortunately, his younger brother is taking the brunt or taking a good bit of punishment because of that, even though if you listen to this guy, he's either a really good actor and selling people that he's not his brother,
right,
or he truly loves football. Either way, I think he's a good scheme fit. And if the Cowboys, if he's there, if we don't take a corner in round 1, it would not surprise me at all if he's the pick in round 2.
Okay. All right. Well, there you go, folks. There is Brian's deep dive into scouting on some of the players that might be available at the end of round 1 / beginning of round 2. Yes.
I'm sorry, dude. I got one more that I need to add to the list. And this guy is my pet cat. He's my favorite player in the entire draft. He's a defensive tackle out of NC State. His name is Aleem McNeil. Okay. He is a dancing bear. He is.
Don't know what that means, Brian.
he is a 330, 340 pound nose tackle who is crazy athletic for a guy that size, right? So to put it into perspective, normally nose tackles who are 6'3", 330, 340, normally their 40 times are well into the 5 seconds, right? Aleem McNeil ran a 4.86, right? That's on par with, that's close to Leighton Vander Esch territory as a 340 pound defensive tackle. The only reason this guy is not a first round player is because he went to NC State and they play exclusively a 3-man line, right? A 3-4.
Right. And
nose tackles don't, in that scheme, they just don't rush the passer. They don't get sacks. They don't get big stats. All they do is sit there and take up blocks. If you put him in our system right now, even if you don't draft a linebacker, automatically a couple of players get better just from drafting this guy. Jalen Smith and Leighton Vander Esch get significantly better because they're not taking on guards and centers the way they were last year and the year before. DeMarcus Lawrence and Randy Gregory and anybody else on that defensive line gets significantly better because if you don't double team Aleem McNeil, he will be in the quarterback's lap like that because he's incredibly strong and incredibly athletic. That's my pet cat. I want them to draft a corner in the first round so that we can draft him in the second round. That's my guy.
I like it. I like it a lot.
All right. Now I'm done.
All right. Now, Brian, man, that's fine. So that is a deep dive into a lot of prospects there. We have one more episode before draft night. As stated on the podcast, Brian and I will do a live. I'll probably go on Facebook Live for it as well. I probably honestly will have, because we really don't have a show agenda for that episode. I'm probably going to Facebook Live me on my phone while we're doing the podcast on Zoom to put on YouTube and doing the podcast at the same time, so we can kind of get everything out there for the first pick. And we'll probably around pick 5-ish tune in live and then kind of get what's going on with the Cowboys. So I'm really, really pumped for that. So there's one more full episode before that happens. And then kind of a reactionary. We probably won't have a normal Friday pod on the draft. It'll probably be the draft night, and then probably Monday or maybe Sunday we'll do like a total,
recap
of what all happened. Recap of what all happened. As far as everything else, man, it's got a fun weekend. Have you watched Captain and Winter Soldier? Have you watched the show?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mainline the Marvel stuff. I mainline the Marvel stuff. Just put it in my bag. I love it.
It's so good, man. Like, I didn't like, it's funny because WandaVision, I didn't care for WandaVision. And I finally, like after the third or fourth episode, I got really good reviews. I'm like, okay, let's binge it. And Tara and I watched it together, my wife and I. And man, I was like, okay, it's a little weird, but I dig it. It's okay. But this is Winter Soldier, and this show is fucking baller, man.
See,
it's Captain America. Ooh, that's good.
I'm the opposite. Like, so when WandaVision came out, a guy I work with who is a comic book, I wouldn't say fanatic, but he is very knowledgeable about comic books. Tried to watch. He came to me and said, "Did you watch WandaVision?" I couldn't do it. I hated it. Blah blah blah. And I was like, all right, well, I'll try it. And I put it on, and we made it through all the way through the first 2 episodes, because that's, they dropped it episode 1 and 2, and I picked up on the little hints of what was going on, and had to go back to him and go, dude, you got to go finish it, watch it. It's awesome. I loved WandaVision. Falcon and the Winter Soldier, I don't like as much as WandaVision, but I do like it a whole lot. I like it. I definitely dig it a lot.
So. See with WandaVision, I saw the trailers and I just wasn't interested. It's kind of like Loki. I'm gonna watch it, but I just am not drawn to his character that much.
Yeah, I am very much.
Yeah, I get it, man. And so, but I just was like, yeah, people are saying exactly what I thought, and it finally got really good reviews, and I'm like, let's do this. But dude, this is my Friday. I got the show. I'm gonna finish this game, go to the gym, do dinner. Rangers at 7. You got the fucking Mavs at 8:30. Got Falcon and Winter Soldier to watch. I mean, it's
jam-packed. It's a good one.
It is one for sure. Well, that's it, man. Unless you got anything else for the pod, bro.
No, not at all. Absolutely. I am satisfied.
All right, very good. Well, if you tuned in, thank you so much. We appreciate every listen, even if there's just one person listening to our podcast. Thank you. Our goal is bigger than what's happening this week. Our goal is to turn this into a household pod that people know about in the Dallas Metroplex. That's why we do this. And it's fun too. We like to talk, and it saves our wives my wife doesn't care about who we're going to pick it, whatever. That's not something she cares about when it actually happens. Who's the player? Is he good? Is he going to contribute? Right. So it's good stuff to talk. So thank you for that. If you like what you heard, please review wherever you listen to podcasts. That would mean the world to us. More people will hear, and when they search for a Dallas podcast by your reviews, we can only tweet it and Facebook it so much. It's about what you, the listener, do and say about what goes on in this podcast. So if you would be so kind to do that, that would be amazing. And this is on YouTube and everywhere that you can listen to podcasts. So that's it for me this week. This is the Goal Line Fade, a Dallas sports podcast. More content coming your way on a weekly basis. Thanks for the listen, and enjoy your weekend or week whenever you're listening to this, folks. Peace.